So, last but not the least, his name is Gunther Verheyen. Gunther is a worldwide Scrum coach. He has over 16 years of experience, has published 2 best-selling books, Scrum, A Pocket Guide, and 97 Things When Scrum Practitioner Needs to Know. So, hi. I was practicing your name, so tell me I did it right.
Yes, you did it. That's perfectly fine. So thank you very much, and thank you for the kind introduction.
Oh, I've
And
lost my reading for a second, but it's okay now. So,
yeah,
how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And not just because we have fine weather, which is a rare thing in Belgium. I live in Antwerp in Belgium, and I'm feeling totally fine. So thank you very much for having me here. And honestly, Elena, looking at the description of Zoom, Belgrade main stage, it gives me the atmosphere of saying something like, "Oh, well, good evening, Belgrade. Here are the points of the Belgian jury." Sort of like Eurovision types of things, but we're not here to talk about Eurovision. Right?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to do this event in person, you know that, and we were really
Yeah.
looking forward to it with a big stage and everything, but unfortunately we needed to change our plans. But there's always next year. So I'm glad you have good weather because we have rain all day, yesterday and
Oh,
today,
okay.
but I guess it may be better for the weekend, I hope so.
Yeah, okay. I hope for you guys too.
Yeah, so today you're here with us, the topic co-management in a product hub.
Yes,
Good.
indeed.
Okay,
Okay.
so we are all ears.
Okay, thank you very much, Elena. And it's fascinating. So, a good day to everybody because I don't know where you're from. I live in Belgium, in Antwerp. So we're about 4 p.m. now. You might have people from around the world. Thank you very much for having me, listening and so on. I was just thinking, Elena, when you closed the previous topic, let's say the break, and invited people to go to the booth of Suke and share 2 lies about Scrum and 1 truth. I was thinking, oh my God, that's a challenge because coming up with 1 truth about Scrum, that is a challenge in itself. But then having to limit yourself to only 2 lies about Scrum, that is even more difficult. So thank you very much. So some challenges for people. So indeed, I want to talk about co-management in the product hub. I recently published an article about it in the Emergence magazine, where Johanna Rothman, probably a lot of people know her, invited me to write about it. So I collected some ideas, and then you invited me to talk about that. And in a way, I was presenting at the Agile Access Festival yesterday and talking about managing for value. And I felt like, oh yeah, this is actually how to organize for value. And indeed, how to actually do that is what I called also in that article, co-management in a product hub. So let me take everybody there. This is just a little thing that I want to share with people. People that have been following me at some events over the past 1 year, 1.5 years, they were all online, by the way, not just the Regional Scrum Gathering in Belgrade, but all events are now online, it seems. And I've been sharing this a lot. Why? Because it's not just for me helpful in my personal life, because it says it's a quote by George Bernard Shaw saying, life isn't about finding yourself, it is about creating yourself. So do stand up, take action, move, do something. Try to build up yourself in a way. Don't sit around waiting for things to happen. And I started realizing this also applies to Scrum. So if I would have to translate it to Scrum, it would mean Scrum isn't about finding it. Scrum is about creating it yourself. So create your own Scrum, go out there, learn, fall, get back up, inspect so that you can adapt, do things differently. And that's sort of important. And it just also led me to starting to call myself at some point in time an independent Scrum Caretaker. And then later on, you keep, this self-creation process never stops. So I added to that on a journey of humanizing the workplace with Scrum. Because for me, Scrum is not just about building great products and organizing around that, but also to create environments what I call product hubs today, where hopefully thriving on the accountabilities of Scrum, people can find the energy again to do their work, the passion, why they like their job, come to work with some joy and pleasure, and also enjoy not just the time at home in the evenings, in the weekends, but also enjoy their time at work. Wouldn't that be beautiful? So just short thing about myself. Now, what I found in those, like Elena said, 18 years of Scrum almost, starting with Scrum back in 2003. Imagine how long is that ago? Oh my God. I didn't have a beard by then, but I do have now, so I must be growing old. So for 18 years have gone by. I've seen a lot of things happening. I've seen beautiful Scrum, not so beautiful Scrum. What I do notice is a lot of organizations struggle with the fact that at some point in time, they realize that they are or were not organized for complexity. In that sense, a lot of uncertainties, unknowns, unpredictabilities on the market, within the organization, within the structure strategies of the organization, or within products, within the usage of products. Changes all over the place, and it's completely unpredictable. And they find that their current ways of organizing, and I've given a sort of symbolic representation of that, is not helping. It makes them feel rigid. Those are rigid structures where people are organized around functions, in functional silos, often sort of disconnected from each other, separated from each other. And the biggest separation seems to be the one between business and IT on the one hand, and then between people actually doing the work and leadership or management. Yeah. So a rigid structure, that means they feel the rigidity in the face of complexity. They feel the rigidity in the sense of delays, waste. It's all too slow. It's not the quality they were hoping for. It's not what people expect them to deliver, and so on. Just, it's rigid. It doesn't help them. And then the thinking is, okay, what now? And in the end, it boils down to, okay, we need to do Scrum. And this is maybe a little bit of an oversimplification, by the way, on my behalf, because in general, most organizations say we need an agile transformation. And when they end up with the how and how are we going to work then, and everybody wants to work in sprints right nowadays. Everybody has a product owner. Everybody is having teams, and everybody has a backlog of at least something. So at least it sounds like Scrum. It might also even look like Scrum, but maybe not really Scrum. But it starts with, we need an agile transformation. We need to be agile too. But in the end, it boils down to, okay, let's try this thing called Scrum. Now, there are some challenges with Scrum. So they've got these rigid structures in place. And while a lot of certainly large, but even medium organizations seem to be focusing on sort of, again, the team level. So they've got all these individuals disconnected from each other, disconnected from the company, from vision, mission, whatever, management leadership of the company, buried in governance, instructions, meaning they say that who should be working with whom, at what point of time, what meetings should be taking place, what intermediate deliverables should be created, what signatures need to be set, what meetings need to be organized, and so on. We've got all these disconnected individuals in an organization organized by functions and specializations, and then people start doing Scrum. And when I look at certainly large, but like I said, even medium organizations, they focus a lot on reorganizing, let's say, those disconnected individuals into teams, because in the end, Scrum and this agile way of working says that you need to work as a team. Now, what is the problem? That they often start up teams within those existing silos. So they end up with teams, often micro teams, that are focusing on aspects of work or components of work, often layers. In that sense, it's still in the realm of their functions and specializations. And in a way, the most that a lot of organizations achieve, that they move from having a lot of disconnected individuals running around like headless chickens in the organization, they move to having a lot of disconnected micro teams running around like headless chickens, but it's still disconnected all over the place. And in the end, but it takes them often several years to find out, it's still full of rigidity. It means, okay, we're now organized as teams, but it still feels rigid. It's full of delays, waste, handovers, meetings, waiting for people. It's not really a collaborative environment, let's say. And one of the things that I feel is missing, a very important thing is missing when organizations try to adopt Scrum, is to think about what is our product. Because you want to use your Scrum to optimally serve your product, serve the consumers of your product, serve the organization that is owning, let's say, the product, or that wants somebody to build the product, and that's going to bring them money or revenues or market share or hurt the competition, anything. The idea of product. And you've got all those disconnected micro teams, and it seems that nobody's minding that the fact that in the end, all those disconnected micro teams handing over work to each other, and therefore they think, okay, we're now organizing sprints of 2 weeks, but you know what? We have to go to 15 weeks, sprints of 2 weeks, that is still 30 weeks. So in the end, it's still the rigidity, still the delays, the waste, and so on. Why? Because nobody's minding that a lot of those micro teams are actually working on the same product or the same service. So nobody's thinking about using Scrum or introducing Scrum, adopting Scrum, but starting by first thinking, considering what is the product that you want to use Scrum for. And that is a very important aspect that I feel is missing in a lot of agile transformations. What is our product? And yet it is a very important one, because in the end, the goal is to optimize or to manage for value. And in the end, you need a vehicle to deliver value to your consumers, via your consumers, to your organization, hopefully also to the people, the teams that are actually building, delivering the product. So in the end, certainly in a Scrum environment, product is the vehicle to deliver value. And that's important. So thinking about introducing Scrum should start by thinking, what is the product on which we want to apply Scrum, for which we want to use Scrum? And that is already a start to overcome this idea of disconnected micro teams. Now, it's difficult to find a really great definition of product. And as you can see on top of the screen, the top one is the one from you would find in dictionaries and so on. And I thought, yeah, it's just not good enough. So when I can't find something, life is about creating yourself. I make up things for myself. I want to help people think about what is product. Start by identifying your product. So what is a product? A product might be something tangible or non-tangible. It might be a good, something you would sell in via shops, a physical thing. It might be a service. It might be a digital service. It might be a tangible service. So a good or a service, tangible, non-tangible. But in the end, what is important that it provides value to consumers. So a product has consumers, people consuming the product, consuming the service. In the end, you wanna reach that. So it can be a tangible, non-tangible good or service, or minimally at least the outcome of some specific process or a specific combination of actions. That's a product as a result of that. But in general, I like to say it's a product, it's a good, it's a service, it might be digital and so on. So think in terms of product a little bit broadly, a product or a service is what I like to say. So think about what is your product, and then think about organizing your Scrum for that. And when organizing your Scrum, even if you come up with this definition of what is your product, in all those agile whatever transformations that I see around the world, another thing is missing. That is missing, I feel, is not just not thinking about product, but also how to remove the disconnect between, let's say, management, leadership, whatever layers, and those teams. So you want to overcome the disconnect between function specializations, both business IT side of organizations, by reorganizing around the product. But Scrum in itself is not used really effectively if you don't rethink the structures around Scrum. And with structures, I mean processes, governance, procedures, bureaucracy, administration, whatever you can think of. And that is another topic that a lot of people seem to be avoiding. So not thinking about product. and not thinking about rethinking the structures around Scrum. And I know Scrum doesn't have a definition for how an organization should look like. We thrive on the idea that people will find inspiration by doing Scrum and rethinking how they organize around that to get even more out of their Scrum. But I love a little bit of naivety, but it seems to be a little bit overly naive. And you know what? We got the name Scrum from this old paper. You know, everybody knows this probably. It's a Scrum Gathering after all. Even in the new product development game paper, 1986, Taikochi Nonaka said that, you know what? In order to really get the most out of this process, which they called Scrum, they say that organizations need to adopt a management style to promote this process. So again, they were a little bit more specific, but at least they didn't say how it should look like. But this, again, builds upon the idea or reinforces the idea you have to rethink the structures around Scrum. Now, rethinking structures around Scrum means reimagining probably management. How do you approach management? Now, if you're part of a team or one of the roles of Scrum or whatever role within the organization, managers, leadership are people too. So think about that. And it seems that even the engagement of managers or people in a management role is pretty low. I mean, we almost always think that, you know what, as employees, just staff members, team members, and so on, we think that our engagement is in general very low. And then we think, you know, management, that must be a lot better. Well, actually, it is not. So this from research of a couple of years ago by the Boston Consulting Group, where they found out that, oh my God, only 37% of managers or people currently in a management position wish to keep that management position. If they look forward into the future, which is quite difficult, by the way, but still for 5 or 10 years. And it seems to be management positions don't seem to be attractive also, because a lot of people that are being managed wish to not end up in a position of managing other people. And the biggest dissatisfaction that people in a management position have is the fact that they only have to execute or implement decisions that others have made before or for them. It means they can't make or take their own decisions. And then in terms of motivation, which is a very, very sad thing, it boils down often to the fact that, you know what, it's just something I need to do to make a career. I don't know, get a bigger company car, make progress, get more status, and so on, or a higher salary, and so on. Now, the good news is that from that survey, we also learn what those people say that management ideally should be about. So actually, it's not really a satisfactory thing, not an attractive thing either. You know, ideally, what they think that management should be about is helping team members develop themselves, provide feedback, remove problems, remove obstacles, facilitate them, make decisions rather than having to implement decisions that were made for you. Motivate teams by creating meaningful environments and so on, setting clear goals. This must sound very familiar because in Scrum terms, we've got accountabilities for that. Scrum Master, Scrum Team, Product Owner, and so on. So let's quickly dive into that, because if people currently in a management position say that ideally management should be mainly about those 5 aspects, we've got an answer for that. We can help because we've got a product owner accountable for optimizing the value that the product delivers. By setting goals, working from a vision, and so on. So setting ambitions or creating ambitions, being a servant leader, him or herself, and getting people to buy into what you're doing. So creating relatedness also. So we've got something for that. We've got a Scrum team. Well, I like to call it like that in a paper. It's what now called the developers, or what we used to call the development team. So we've got a team making their own decisions on how to actually do that work. So they manage themselves within a sprint. So they self-organize as a team around the challenge of creating valuable increments of the product. in collaboration with the product owner no later than by the end of the sprint. So they don't need external instructions or whatever for that. So they manage themselves, which is in line what managers say that management ideally should be about. And now we know removing blockages, we call them impediments in Scrum. We've got a Scrum Master facilitating people, creating an environment where people can develop, challenging people, making sure that the Scrum team, as part of their self-organization, they also think about development, skills, tools, practices, insights, learning from each other, moving from just being a cross-functionally composed team to cross-fertilization, acquiring new skills, and so on. So we've got an answer on all of that. Together they form, what we call a Scrum team as a self-organizing unit within the organization. And that unit, by adopting Scrum, and enacting the accountabilities as defined in Scrum, they will grow different relationships with people around them. Naturally, they want to have feedback from stakeholders as well as from consumers of the product. So stakeholders, for me, more people within the organization. Consumers are, in the end, the people that will consume our product. As a Scrum team, we need both of those parties to be involved, certainly at the sprint review, to give us feedback. To help us think about, is it still, are we heading in the right strategic direction? Are we heading in the right product direction? Is this what people actually appreciate by consuming the product? Is this actually bringing the value to the organization? All things we need to learn from stakeholders. So it's much less about hierarchy and much more about collaboration and complementary perspectives on the product or on the work that we are doing. And that is totally in line with what managers currently say that management ideally should be about, creating an environment where this happens. So if you think around a product and organize your Scrum around the product, rather than having a hierarchical structure in place, you're looking to create something that I like to call a product hub, so a hub around a product. And within that hub, it's all about collaboration, self-organization. You've got certain roles and accountabilities in place. People need a workspace for that. It's about applying certain technology, having multiple teams in place. So it's about complementary perspectives and accountabilities for a product, rather than hierarchy and separation in functions and specializations. So think ecosystem. Even a team within the organization, think ecosystem. An ecosystem is a self-sustaining system. So think about what is our product, and then organize your Scrum in such a way that you become a self-organizing unit as a Scrum team, and that you're part of, as a Scrum team, of a larger ecosystem that revolves around the product. And see that as an alternative. And it's one advice that I bring when I get to talk to people, and certainly executive teams but also just regular Scrum teams. Think about your product. So my advice often is to reimagine your Scrum. So okay, you've introduced Scrum, you've adopted Scrum, you feel like the results, the improvements are lacking, you're missing out on a lot of improvements that you hoped to be making. Let's reimagine your Scrum. And let's not consider the whole organization, but let's look at a certain product, a service, and then how you've organized your Scrum for that. So start with product, then think about accountabilities. Do you have an owner of the product? Or do you have more like an owner of a team maybe? Is your product backlog actually for a product, or is that more like a sort of team list of work that you need to get done? So think with product and then organize your Scrum for your product. And that might include reimagining how your Scrum teams are composed. And again, thriving on self-organization and even the self-designing or the self-redesigning capabilities of people in teams. But think ecosystem, try to step away from the hierarchical thinking. So, and if we then think about a product hub, meaning a product hub means at the heart of a product hub, there is a product. And with your product, you want to deliver end-to-end value to your consumers, to your stakeholders. And hopefully it also brings value in another way, not money, not satisfaction, but some form of engagement and energy to the people doing the work, meaning the teams. So at the heart of a product hub, there is a product. And rather than having a sort of small pyramid around the product, you want to think about the life cycle that a product goes through. Yeah, products get conceived at some point in time. You think about them. You've got a great, brilliant, whatever idea. You've got multiple ideas. You select the right one. You think about feasibility. You look at market. You look at market expectations. Look at your own belief, your own mission statements and so on, because maybe the market isn't asking for something and still you think that there's a potential use for that, something that contributes to, I don't know, better society, more usage of things, whatever. So products get conceived, they get defined, they get created, they grow, they evolve, they change, things are added, things are removed, they get updated and so on. And at some point of time, products are exited, meaning they are taken out of the market again. Yeah, it's not the topic of today, but you know what? Think for yourself in your organization. That seems to be one of the most difficult aspects of an organization, is to take a product out of the market again. Yeah, but you know, there's still 3 people using it. Yeah, you know what? And investments and complexity of the landscape and so on. So it's also an expression of maximizing the work not done, maximizing the products you don't want to keep online anymore or alive. Now, another perspective, sort of on the same, so a life cycle, and there's a number of sort of activities that need to be done or executed or implemented for a product. Again, it starts with identifying your product. What is your product? What is your service? What does it mean to deliver end-to-end value to your consumers, to your organization with that product or service? Another way of looking at it is there's a number of things that need to happen for a product. Product needs to get sales, marketing, communication, there's financial aspects, you need funding, you need budgets, you need to actually develop, create and deliver the product. So there's delivery aspect. You want to think about strategies for your product vision and so on. A lot of things. But again, at the heart of what we do in a product hub is a product. That means in Scrum terms, we also have a product owner at the heart of the product. That means the product owner is not some sort of distant requirements engineer, whatever. No, actually an owner of the product. That means in the 2 ways of looking at it, at the heart of what you do, you've got a product owner that actually owns the product. So it's not part of some sort of silo or at the business side of the organization, but really at the heart of the product. And then where Scrum is typically used, obviously, is we've got a definition for a product. Let's call that a product backlog. All the things that need to happen or that might that are deemed valuable for the product, listed, ordered in one backlog. It's a product backlog. So we've got an owner for the product. We've got a backlog for the product. One source of work in progress, and we've got a Scrum team or developers or development team, whatever you want to call it, to do all the work involved in creating, delivering, changing, updating, and maintaining, servicing, whatever the product. Yeah. So that's the iterative incremental process where you want to use sprints. That's sort of the minimal use of Scrum. Yeah. So starting by product is an invitation to think about having a real product owner with a mandate to take decisions and be sort of the link between all those aspects of managing a product. Yeah. And obviously we've got a Scrum Master, again, not tied into some sort of silo based departmental, whatever structure, but an overarching coach, servant leader, servant manager, facilitator, whatever, for the whole ecosystem. Yeah? So in the ecosystem, whether marketing people, communication people, and so on, whether they use sprints, I don't care that much. If it's helpful for them, yes, please go ahead. Minimal use of Scrum is often for the delivery, the creation, the evolution of the product. If all of the rest needs to be organized in Scrum teams too, fine, no problem, go ahead, inspect, adapt, learn, that's great. But the ambition is to have all those skills and expertise and all those sort of activities organized within the ecosystem. And thereby calling it a product hub. So product hub is a self-sustaining ecosystem doing all this work for a product. And that is sort of an alternative way of organizing. So by moving slowly, gradually, product after product after product, from that pyramid structure towards more like a networked organization, a structure of a network of product hubs, then in a way, management and leadership becomes a distributed quality tool. Because within a product hub, we've got a product owner working with Scrum teams or developers, facilitated, coached by Scrum Masters and so on. And a product hub can grow, it can shrink, a new product hub can be established, a product hub can disappear. And that's why, for me, this becomes an agile structure, because there's agility now in the organizational structure. So agility as the opposite of rigidity, because we try to move from very rigid structures to more agile, more flexible structures. And if you're going to use Scrum as again, based upon the new product development game, self-organizing teams within the boundaries of inspection adaptation, it's about creating, delivering, optimizing for the value that a product or a service delivers. So when I go to talk with organizations that are struggling with their agile transformations, with those silos and so on, and they've got actually a lot of micro teams in place that are sort of locked in within functional silos, often component silos, let's say, my advice is reimagine your Scrum. Identify your product, identify how you can deliver end-to-end value with your product. In that sense, also what your definition of done for the product, for increments of the product would hold. Rethink the accountabilities and how to organize for that. And start creating an ecosystem, a self-sustaining ecosystem. Yeah? And that is totally in line with what the new product development game said. So they said you need to adopt a management style that promotes this process, what we call Scrum still nowadays. And in that process, the role of management is not to intervene on a daily basis, is not to give instructions, it is not to tell people how to do their work. You want to trust your people for being professionals, and you want to, in a way, manage at the outset, in that sense, by visiting sprint reviews and giving feedback and helping people. Yeah? And in that sense, this structure, in a way, implements this idea of the new product development game, where they say, you know what, a team or an ecosystem around a product, which I now call a product hub, should operate like a startup. They make up their own agenda, they take their own initiatives within the larger view and mission statement of the company, obviously. Within that, driven by a product owner with a vision and getting people to buy into the vision that exists over the product. And then management taking up a very different role. It's again a facilitating role. It's in a way also a servant leadership role. Like Scrum Masters are servant leaders, management start acting as servant leaders too. They make sure that there's enough funding. They give feedback on the work, they give input, they share knowledge that they have on what the market is going for, what competition might be doing, what is happening within the organization in terms of strategies and strategic directions. So do this product after product after product. And this is in a way how we also did it, like over 10 years ago, 11 years ago at a large Dutch bank, ING, where we started within a large department, 800 people. And we started moving from no delivery via Scrum. And after 2 years, all delivery was done by Scrum. And we actually applied this principle, which is actually applying the idea of iterative incremental progress to agile transformations and making it specific with Scrum and the Scrum accountabilities. So slowly, gradually move from that silo-based pyramid structure and slowly inside out, outside in, transform that structure into a more flexible structure. Having a product hub with the accountabilities, doing all the work that they need for a product, and be self-sustaining ecosystem. And do that product after product after product. And after several years, you will have a more flexible organization. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you liked it. I hope you see the challenges. I hope you recognize where a lot of organizations are stuck at today. And I hope you've got some ideas out of this to potentially get out of the blockage, to help people strive for more agility.
Okay, here we are. Can you hear me, Gunther?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It was very interesting and refreshing to hear from you. And as I said, thank you for being a part of this event with us. And I hope that next time you will be able to join us in person so that we can show you Belgrade and to meet in person, because it's never the same when you meet someone and
Yes.
meet in person. So thank you a lot. This is the last, but of course not the least, session that we had in these 2 days. And this is, if I can say, the perfect way to finish this gathering. So if you want, you can, some of the speakers did that, so you can put your presentation on Matchabout for the people to download it, or if you have any tips for them or any other takeaways that they can have for them, that they can help them in their job and in the future. So you can use Matchabout to upload it, and then people can use them later on.
Okay, great.
So, good. So as I said, this is the last session for these 2 days. We are a bit tired, but very happy that we pulled this off. And again, thank you so much for being part of this event with us.
Thank you again for the invitation. I hope everybody liked it. I hope everybody is as tired as you are, because it might mean that they got a lot out of it and that they're all processing and absorbing all of the information and got some ideas to take back to the workflow, let's say, because that's where the change should happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
cool.
And until some next occasion when we can work together. Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.